Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the fanfiction guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Turned into Raijin. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. In a world where 80% of humanity wielded supernatural abilities known as quirks, the pursuit of heroism had become a viable, almost expected career path. These powered individuals stood tall, basking in admiration and glory, revered as modern-day gods. But there remained the forgotten 20%, those born without powers. The quirkless. They were overlooked, dismissed, and written off as nobodies. Among them lived a boy named Izuku Midoriya, whose heart burned with dreams too big for the label he was given. From a young age, Izuku had idolized heroes, especially All Might, the #1 hero, a symbol of peace and strength. His notebooks were filled with analysis, tactics, weaknesses, and strategies. While others saw comic book fantasy, Izuku saw blueprints to salvation. But when his quirkless diagnosis came, everything changed. His childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo, once close like a brother, turned venomous. His admiration for Izuku twisted into contempt. The same kids who used to play heroes and villains with him now labeled him Deku, a useless nobody. Still, Izuku held onto his dream. Despite the pain, despite the isolation, despite the mockery, he pressed on with a trembling smile and eyes that shimmered with hope. But dreams are fragile things. Everything broke the day he was nearly killed by a sludge villain. In a blur of chaos, he found himself rescued by his idol All Might. But when he clung to the symbol of peace and begged the question that had tormented him for years, can someone without a quirk still be a hero? He received the answer that shattered him. I'm sorry, but no. All Might's words were not cruel, but they were final. It's not bad to dream, young man, but you have to be realistic. Those words festered like poison in his chest. As the day stretched into evening, Izuku found himself aimlessly walking through the city, his heart heavy with despair and something darker. Rage. Injustice. Not just at All Might. Not just at Katsuki. But at a society that worshipped power and discarded the powerless. His steps carried him back to the scene of the sludge attack, just in time to witness something that made his blood run cold. Katsuki was the villain's new victim. And the heroes did nothing. They stood frozen by fear or bureaucratic caution while Katsuki struggled, gasped, and clawed for his life. Something inside Izuku snapped. Without thinking, without a quirk, without a plan, he ran. He ran straight into danger, clawing at the sludge, shouting Katsuki's name, ignoring the screams telling him to stop. His body moved on instinct. Not because of power, but because of courage. And again, All Might moved. Inspired by the boy's bravery, he tore through the villain with a single, earth-shaking punch. The dust settled. Katsuki was saved. The villain defeated. But praise was not Izuku's reward. He was scolded, reprimanded, told off by pro-heroes for acting recklessly. No, thank you, no, well done. Just reminders that he was still less. Then came Bakugo's final blow. You didn't help me. You just got in the way. Do us all a favor and jump off the roof next time. And with that, he left Izuku behind. The boy walked. He didn't know where. He didn't care. His feet guided him like a ghost, and soon he found himself at Dagobah Municipal Beach Park, a wasteland of forgotten appliances, rusted cars, and the scent of salt and rot. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the junkyard of society's discarded past. There, among the wreckage, Izuku collapsed beside a refrigerator and screamed. A sound not of fear, but grief, rage, helplessness. He punched the steel until his knuckles bled, tears mingling with sweat. The image of Bakugo, of All Might, of the jeering heroes flashed before his eyes like a cruel montage. His sobs softened. The anger lingered like smoke, but a cold calm began to settle over him. Maybe they're right, he thought. But something strange caught his eye. A glow. Faint at first, like a shimmer beneath a pile of discarded junk. Then stronger. Electric blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. Drawn like a moth to flame, Izuku stepped forward. Behind a stack of tires and rusted cables lay a sphere. Perfectly round. Floating slightly above the ground. It pulsed with energy unlike anything he'd seen. Not a quirk. Not technology. Something older. Something alien. He reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the sphere, the world exploded in light. The blue glow surged, wrapping around him in a storm of data, symbols, and warmth that poured into his bones. His breath caught in his throat. His mind raced. He felt connected. Not just to the sphere but to something vast. Limitless. A voice rang out clear, synthetic, ancient. Identification confirmed. Name, Izuku Midoriya. Symbols floated in the air before him, dancing with light and information. Connecting to N'Baro Atksteel X377. Ultralink initiated. The light surged again, surrounding Izuku in rings of blue fire. His body lifted an inch off the ground, limbs trembling with power. The warmth coursed through him, filling the void All Might's rejection had left behind. Then, darkness. He collapsed. In the skies far above Earth, systems activated. Eyes opened. A long-dormant satellite pinged once. And a figure cloaked in ancient metal stirred within a hidden space station orbiting the Earth, its sensors flashing one name over and over again, Midoriya, Izuku. The ultra-tech interface had found its host. And the universe had just gotten a new variable. Izuku Midoriya didn't expect to lose consciousness that day. One moment, he was engulfed in a radiant blue light. The next, everything faded to black. When his senses finally returned, he was lying on the sand, blinking up at the cloudy sky that hovered over Dagobah Municipal Beach. Groaning, Izuku sat up and glanced around, heart still pounding. The remnants of the mysterious glowing sphere were nowhere to be seen. Was it a dream? He whispered to himself, brushing sand off his uniform. I must have imagined it. But as he sighed and prepared to gather his things, a voice mechanical and upbeat echoed nearby. That, my friend, was no dream at all. Izuku spun around, startled, and stumbled back as a hovering blue drone zipped into view. Its body gleamed with a sleek, alien design, and a large central eye blinked at him like an expressive digital camera lens. I don't have anything valuable. Izuku stammered, raising his arms defensively. Please don't hurt me. The drone floated calmly in front of him, its gaze steady. For a few tense seconds, Izuku braced for impact, but nothing came. He cracked one eye open. Relax, the drone said, hovering a bit closer. I'm not going to hurt you. In fact, I'm here to help. Izuku blinked, lowering his arms slowly. Help me. Allow me to introduce myself, the drone said proudly. Designation, N'Baro Atksteel X377. Ultralink. But you can just call me Steel. Izuku's mouth dropped open slightly. Steel? I guess it's nice to meet you? Steel's eyes squinted in what could only be interpreted as a digital smile. Suddenly, a wave of images surged through Izuku's mind, glimpses of stars, alien worlds, machinery, and finally, isolation. Steel's past, his home, and the devastating realization that he was the last of his kind. Izuku gasped. You're alone. Yeah, Steel said with a low hum. Being the only one left is rough. But now that I've found you, maybe that changes things. Izuku looked at the ground, processing. Why me? Because, Steel said gently, you want to help people, don't you? That hit a nerve. Izuku's eyes darkened as he remembered the words spoken by All Might, his idol. The judgment. The dismissal. I did, he admitted. But after today, I'm not so sure. The so-called heroes out there, they only care about fame. Popularity. But I didn't want to be a hero for the glory. I wanted to save people. That was always my reason. Steel hovered closer, tilting slightly. Well then, maybe you just need a new path. One that doesn't follow the rules. Izuku's eyes widened as the word echoed in his head. Vigilante. His breath hitched. You mean, I could help people without needing a license? Exactly, Steel said. The law doesn't always get it right. But you can. Izuku slowly stood up, resolve solidifying in his heart. Steel, will you join me? Izuku, Steel replied, we're linked now. Wherever you go, I go. They sealed the pact with a fist bump, human and machine, forging a partnership in the shadow of rejection. Later that evening, as the sun set and his phone buzzed with frantic messages from his mother, Izuku panicked. Steel, get in my bag quick. Roger that. He sprinted home, and after the expected storm of concern, scolding and relief from his mother, he finally retreated to his room. The All Might posters plastered on his walls no longer brought him comfort. He looked at them with cold eyes and lowered his head onto his pillow. You know, Steel murmured from inside the bag, All Might probably thought he was doing the right thing. Maybe, Izuku muttered. But it still hurt. He could have at least told me without making me feel like I was worthless. So, what now? Still thinking of Yue? Izuku stared at the ceiling, then turned his head toward the glowing blue eye inside his bag. No. I think I'm done chasing the dream of becoming a pro hero, he said. But Yue has a support course. Maybe I can go there instead. Help people in another way. With your brain? You'd be unstoppable, Steel chirped. Izuku smiled. Then his bedroom door opened. Izuku, his mother peeked in, eyes full of concern. Who were you talking to? Izuku chuckled nervously. Oh, just, talking to myself. Thinking out loud. She gave him a look, but nodded. As she turned to leave, Izuku suddenly jumped up and hugged her. I think I want to try for the support course, he said softly. Inko teared up, hugging him back tightly. That makes me very proud, sweetie. At 11 p.m., the window slid open with a creak, and a figure in dark clothes climbed out. Izuku was dressed for stealth, black pants, dark red shirt, jacket, and a cap to hide his unruly hair. Steel hovered beside him, glowing softly in the night. They navigated rooftops until they found a secluded spot. Steel scanned the surroundings. All clear. Izuku took a deep breath. So, about that energy thing, turbo energy, Steel replied. It powers the Ultralink armor and grants special combat modes. Let's try flight mode. Wait, what? How do I activate it? Simple, Steel said cheerfully, then suddenly zipped forward, connecting with Izuku's chest. What the? Blue particles swirled around him, transforming into a flexible, armored suit with sleek lines of white, black, and vibrant blue. Screens lit up around his vision. He looked down at his new form in awe. Yo, Izuku. Like the suit. Izuku turned toward a broken mirror and gasped. This is incredible. Let's activate the mode. Just say the phrase, go turbo flight. Izuku took a running start, nerves rattling. Ready? He grinned. Yeah. He leapt from the rooftop. Go turbo flight. Wings and thrusters burst from his back as he shot into the sky with a sonic boom. The city lights blurred beneath him, the wind rushed past his face, and for the first time in a long time, he felt free. This is amazing, he shouted, looping through the air. And it only gets better, Steel said. Now, let's test your sensors. We've got work to do. Izuku's eyes narrowed as blips appeared on his HUD criminal activity marked in red. Let's go, he said. It's time to show this world that even the quirkless can be heroes. He soared into the night, cloaked in steel and purpose. The morning sun filtered gently through the blinds of a modest room, casting golden rays across the quiet figure of Izuku Midoriya. Curled under the covers, his body hummed with a hint of residual energy, turbo energy, to be exact, earned through a long night of patrolling the streets as an anonymous vigilante. Between rescuing civilians, outwitting low-tier thugs, and expertly dodging pro-heroes, Izuku had returned home at 4 a.m., exhausted but deeply content. That peace, however, was short-lived. Wake up! The sudden mechanical shout jolted Izuku from his sleep. In a panicked motion, he flailed, tumbled out of bed, and landed flat on his back with a groan. What the heck, Steel? He exclaimed, glaring at the floating spherical drone hovering near his ceiling. Steel, his AI-enhanced companion, floated down with an apologetic chime. Sorry about that, But remember, while turbo energy enhances your performance, it also drains quickly. We've got to condition your body to support it long-term. Izuku groaned again but nodded, knowing Steel was right. He changed into his workout gear, stretched out his sore limbs, and headed toward the kitchen where the scent of miso soup greeted him. "You're up early," his mother, Inko, said with a soft smile as she handed him a bowl. "Yeah," Izuku replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "I thought I'd train a bit, and maybe tinker with some new support gear." Inko nodded in quiet understanding. She had long since realized her son had dreams bigger than anyone could imagine and a secret that went even deeper. After breakfast and a warm hug, Izuku stepped out into the cool air and walked toward Dagobah Beach, scrolling through the news on his phone. Articles buzzed about the masked vigilante from the night before. No photos. No name. Just whispers of a mysterious armored figure. He smiled. By the time they reached the cluttered beach, Steel floated beside him, scanning the heaps of discarded electronics, twisted metal, and broken tech. "With all this junk," Steel said gleefully, "we can build anything. Oh, and I've already made a 10-month training regime tailored to you. Strength, flexibility, endurance plus invention time." Izuku's eyes widened as the hologram unfolded in front of him. "This is insane but amazing. And since I'm aiming for the support course, this is perfect." Steel buzzed slightly. "Speaking of UA, I've reviewed their hero course entrance exam. It's biased." "Huh." Izuku blinked. "Think about it," Steel continued. "The test heavily favors those with flashy or offensive quirks. What about kids with non-combat abilities? There are no tactical challenges or teamwork trials, just robot smashing." Izuku sighed. "You're right, it's not really a fair system." As he wandered through the scrap, something caught his eye: a rusted, vintage motorcycle, half buried in debris but still mostly intact. "Whoa," Izuku said, crouching down. "This could be usable. Maybe even for patrol." Before he could think twice, Steel zipped forward and attached himself to the machine. Blue pixels danced across the frame as Steel began a rapid integration process. In moments, the motorcycle transformed sleek, functional, enhanced with subtle tech modifications and a glowing core. Izuku's jaw dropped. "Steel, this is awesome." Steel emerged from the front panel. "Told you I had upgrades in mind." For the next 10 months, Izuku trained harder than ever. From dawn till dusk, he pushed his limits, lifting, sprinting, building, crafting. By day he was a student, by night, a ghost in the streets, a vigilante with speed, strength, stealth, and purpose. He kept his distance from Bakugo, whose ego had inflated even more since the sludge incident. Izuku found the hot-headed boy's threats hollow now. After all, when you fought crime under moonlight, teenage yelling seemed quaint. By the 6th month, however, something unexpected happened. While scavenging on the beach, Izuku stumbled literally into someone. Or more accurately, into someone's chest. Sorry, I didn't mean to." A bright laugh echoed. "It's fine. You're not the first guy who's landed face-first into my creations." Blushing wildly, Izuku looked up to see a girl with pink goggles, a manic grin, and messy peach-colored hair. "Name's Mei Hatsum," she said. "You working on gadgets too?" That chance meeting blossomed into a partnership. Both aspiring to join UA's support course, they shared designs, challenges, and a growing camaraderie. Mei's wild inventions mixed brilliantly with Izuku's meticulous designs, and thankfully, she remained unaware of Steel. By the end of the 10 months, Izuku stood before the gates of UA High in his clean school uniform, heart pounding at the sight of the legendary school. "This is it," he whispered. "Time to make it count." "Get out of the way, you nerd." Bakugo growled, brushing past him. Izuku didn't flinch. Instead he sighed. Definitely not threatened. But fate wasn't done playing with him. As he walked, Izuku tripped over his untied shoelaces, tumbling forward only to stop midair. Wide-eyed, he floated gently back onto his feet. "You okay?" a girl's soft voice asked. He turned and saw a kind face with chestnut brown eyes and soft cheeks. Her expression was nervous but warm. "Sorry about that," she said with a sheepish smile. I used my quirk. Falling like that seemed like a bad omen. I am Izuku Midoriya, he stammered. Ochako Uraraka, she replied. Nice to meet you. And with a wave, she walked off. Izuku blinked. She was nice. Before he could process further, a familiar pair of arms wrapped around him, pressing his face into a warm embrace. Hi, May, he muttered, red-faced. You ready for the exam? She asked, practically bouncing with excitement. Come on. Let's ace this thing. They passed with flying colors. While May's entry was almost guaranteed, Izuku's gadgets and technical brilliance more than earned him a spot. Celebrations were cut short, however, when Steel interrupted their post-exam scavenge session. Izuku! Emergency! A student's in trouble at the hero course exam. Izuku quickly made an excuse to May and ducked into an alley. Once alone, he dropped his bag, where Steel emerged, pulsing with urgency. Turbo flight go! Izuku shouted. Energy surged around him, forming his armor. Wings of light unfurled from his back as he launched into the sky like a missile. At ground beta, chaos ruled. Examinees fled in terror from the towering zero-pointer. But no one noticed the girl beneath the rubble except Izuku. Please someone help. Ochako cried, eyes wide in panic. Go turbo speed. A streak of energy tore through the air. Before she knew it, Ochako was swept up and cradled safely in powerful arms. You all right? The armored vigilante asked. She blinked up at him, speechless. Yes. Good, he nodded. Now let me handle this robot. Power surged through him. Steel ready? Using 2 modes at once is going to wipe you out. Be careful. Izuku gritted his teeth. Worth it. Combine turbo speed plus strength. He blasted forward, launched into the air, and hurled himself toward the robot's eye. His right fist crackled with turbo energy as he let out a yell. Colossal takedown. The impact shattered the zero-pointer's eye. The entire robot exploded in a brilliant fireball. Shockwaves sent nearby debris flying as stunned examinees and instructors watched in silence. Hovering for a second, Izuku's energy flickered. Turbo stealth, he hissed, cloaking himself in a final burst of invisibility before escaping unseen. Later that evening, Izuku and Mei sat at the Midoriya dinner table since the girl insisted on learning about the ideas that filled Izuku's head, chatting and munching on katsudon made by a smiling Inko. Yo, Steel, Izuku muttered discreetly, once it's dark we're going on patrol. You got it, Steel replied from the shadows of Izuku's room. Mei waved her chopsticks, talking animatedly about their next invention. Izuku smiled, his heart full. He wasn't just building gadgets anymore. He was building a future. The night air howled past Izuku Midoriya, or as the world knew him now, Raijin the storm that struck in silence. In his base form, dressed in black gear and strapped tight onto his custom turbo-powered bike, Izuku tore through the empty highway roads outside Mizudafu. The city was distant now, a blur of neon behind him. In his wake, a mess of sirens chased but failed to catch him. He leaned forward, wind biting against his cheeks. This is getting annoying, Izuku muttered, weaving through streetlights. Yeah, it really is, Steel replied from the chest-mounted slot, his voice vibrating slightly from the velocity. But on the bright side, they still haven't tagged your signature. Izuku's gloves sparked faintly as he revved the bike's core. Let's lose 'em. Turbo energy surged through the wheels as the bike roared to life, glowing with threads of blue. With a hum that escalated to a sonic boom, he vanished into the night, leaving law enforcement in his dust. Hours later, far from the city's chaos, Izuku stood at the edge of a cliff, his bike parked nearby. The ocean below shimmered with the silver kiss of moonlight, and the rustling trees whispered peace into the air. He leaned against an old tree, eyes reflecting the quiet world around him. This is really nice, Izuku said softly. Steel emerged from his chest panel, hovering beside him. Sure is. Peaceful. Almost makes you forget the whole world's got it out for you. They shared a small laugh, but then snap. The sound of a branch breaking cut through the air like a knife. Izuku's head turned sharply. Who's there? The intruder attempted to retreat, but Steel's sensors activated. Got her. 7 meters to the left behind the thick oak, Steel reported, floating higher for a better view. Izuku stepped around the tree and blinked. There, caught like a child caught in mischief, was Ochako Uraraka. Her cheeks flushed as she stumbled forward. I didn't mean to spy. I was just curious. I saw you riding that crazy bike earlier and She took a deep breath and blurted, I wanted to say thank you for saving me. The last part echoed across the cliff as she covered her face, blushing furiously. Izuku chuckled. Well, I'm glad you're okay, miss. Ochako Uraraka. Right, Uraraka? I hope you're doing okay after that exam. I bet you'll get in. She looked up at him, her eyes wide like a lost puppy. Really? Izuku touched a switch on his helmet, lifting the visor just enough to reveal his warm smile. Of course. Ochako found herself smiling back, strangely comforted by this mysterious armored stranger. There was something about him, not just his strength, but the quiet kindness in his voice, the way he spoke as if he truly saw people. Izuku glanced at the stars. I should go. I understand, Ochako replied, though her tone carried a hint of disappointment. Steel ready? He called. Yeah, let's make it flashy. Go turbo flight. Turbo energy surged through his armor, engines flaring to life. Steel disengaged from Izuku's chest and plugged into the bike, taking over as the rider. As Izuku rose into the air, he looked back. Well, it was nice meeting you, Uraraka. Hope we run into each other again. Wait, she called out, hand raised. Can you at least tell me your name? Izuku paused, his helmet glinting under the moonlight. Just call me Raijin. And then he was gone, a bolt of blue lightning STNG across the sky. Ochako watched him vanish into the distance, her hand over her chest as her heart raced. Raijin. Huh, she whispered. I hope I really do see you again. Next day. With the encounter behind him, Izuku returned to his routine, training his body, upgrading gadgets with Mei, and slipping into his vigilante persona when the city called. The weeks flew by, a blur of school prep and late-night missions. Then results day. He opened the message on his phone. Accepted into UA's support course. His mother cried happy tears. Mei flooded his phone with messages like, we did IT Tech BOI, and at least 3 blueprints for celebratory confetti cannons. Izuku, for once, allowed himself to feel proud. The sky was a calm sea of blue, and the sun hung bright above Mizudafu, casting golden rays through the curtains of a modest apartment. Today wasn't just any day. Today was the day. Izuku Midoriya stood at the doorway of his home, wearing a gray blazer with blue-green stripes on the collar and hem of the sleeves over his UA uniform, his shoes laced tight, and a spark of determination gleaming in his eyes. His heart beat like a drum roll beneath his chest because after years of dreaming, note-taking, late-night tinkering, and wishing on shooting stars, he was finally going to attend UA high school. Sure, it wasn't the hero course. He hadn't been born with a quirk. But he had gotten into the support course, the very program where inventors, engineers, and creators helped shape the future of hero society. He'd made it. Even if he was on the sidelines, he was in the arena. And he wasn't alone. Hey! A small, metallic voice chimed from inside his backpack. What am I, chopped liver? Izuku laughed as Steel, his robotic companion, poked his sleek head out from the zipper. Come on, Steel, you're always with me. Don't go all mopey on me now. Before Steel could respond, another voice rang from the kitchen, louder, warmer, and filled with concern. Izuku? Did you pack some tissues? His mother, Izuku Midoriya, called, her voice carrying that loving blend of worry and chaos she'd perfected over the years. Yes, Mom, he shouted back with a grin. What about your handkerchief? You know you can't leave without a handkerchief. I packed it. I swear. Izuku glanced at the clock. But I've got to go or I'll be late. He turned to the door but then paused. His mother stood there, clutching her hands, misty-eyed. She looked at him, really looked at him, and smiled through the emotion. You're mega cool right now, Izuku, she said. I'm proud of you. Even if you're helping from the sidelines, you're still making a difference. So go out there and show them what it means to be a hero and an inventor. Izuku felt something swell in his chest. Purpose. He walked up and gave his mom a long, tight hug. "Don't worry, Mom," he whispered. "I'll be safe. I've got a lucky charm." He winked. "I love you. I'll see you soon." Inko waved from the doorway as he left. Izuku waved back. They were out of sight. Steel snickered. "Lucky charm, huh? Are we talking about me, or maybe a certain girl with pink dreadlocks? Or perhaps the brown-haired one with the adorable cheeks?" Izuku groaned. "Dude, come on." He chuckled anyway. As they walked a bit further, Izuku found a quiet alleyway with no one around. He looked up at the clear skies above and grinned. "Hey, Steel," he said, setting his backpack down. "You ready?" Steel flew out and hovered beside him, wings folded confidently. "Ready as ever, bud." Izuku took a deep breath and threw his fist forward. "Then let's go turbo flight." Energy erupted around him like lightning in reverse, spiraling upward and forming a sleek suit of armor that shimmered in the morning light. Thrusters hummed on his back as he launched into the sky like a rocket, soaring above the clouds, above the traffic, above the heroes who patrolled below. His high school journey had officially begun. Time skip, minutes later. It had only been a short while since he'd left home, but in that time, Izuku had managed to stop a couple of petty crooks, save a kitten from a tree, return a runaway balloon to a crying child, and rescue a toy robot that had rolled into traffic. He did it all between flight routes while also expertly avoiding the watchful eyes of pro heroes because while he was proud of his tech, flying around in unauthorized gear could raise questions. Now, grounded and desuited, he stood before the mighty gates of UA High School, holding a map and scanning the layout. "Class 1H, the support course," he muttered. "This is it," he said, half to himself, half to Steel, who peeked out from his jacket. "You're gonna build some amazing stuff here," Steel replied with a nod. "And I'll be with you every step of the way." "Thanks, Steel." He took a breath, opened the door to Class 1H, and stepped inside. Dozens of students were already in their seats, chatting, assembling tiny drones, fiddling with gadgets, or just blinking sleepily. At the front of the room stood their instructor, a lanky man in a lab coat with wild black hair and magnifying lenses for glasses. "Ah, it looks like you've finally arrived, Mr. Midoriya," the teacher said. "Please take the seat next to Ms. Hatsum." Izuku's heart leapt. May Hatsum. His friend. Fellow gearhead. One of the few people who never treated him like he was less just because he didn't have a quirk. May grinned at him with a sparkle in her eye and an oil stain on her cheek. He smiled back and took his seat beside her. Introductions followed. The teacher introduced himself, then asked each student to do the same. Name, likes, dislikes, and their dream. When it was Izuku's turn, he stood, cleared his throat, and spoke with honesty. "My name's Izuku Midoriya. I like gadgets, hero tech, and tuna sandwiches. I don't like, arrogance. Or people who look down on others." He paused. "My dream is to create support gear that can change the world and prove that even without a quirk, someone can still make a difference." A few students nodded. One or two smiled. But then someone spoke. "Wait, you're quirkless?" The room buzzed with whispers. "He's quirkless? What's he doing here? Why bother? He should just quit." Izuku didn't flinch. He simply smiled. "If you think I'm going to quit on the first day, then you're mistaken," he said calmly. "Just because I wasn't born with a quirk doesn't mean I'm not human. So how about this: get off your high horse, stay on the ground, and avoid getting outclassed." The class fell silent. May gave him a thumbs up. Steel, nestled in his jacket, whispered, "Now that's how you make an entrance." Their teacher smirked approvingly. "Bold words, Midoriya. I like it. Take your seat." Lunch period. While the others chatted and ate, Izuku was deep in thought, scribbling in his notebook and analyzing schematics. He was already brainstorming potential upgrades for the hero students, and thanks to Steel, he had access to the students' public profiles and costume specifications. What would Uraraka need for aerial support? He mused. Maybe some gravitational stabilizers. Steel leaned in. "You sure you're not just looking for an excuse to talk to the adorable cheeks girl?" Izuku ignored him. And Ida could use some brake stabilizers. Maybe. But when a certain name popped up on his screen, he rolled his eyes. Bakugu. Nope. Waste of time. Steel chuckled. You really don't like him, huh? I just hope I don't see him. Or that fake #1 hero. They'd be nothing but a pain. He closed the file and leaned back, staring out the window. His first day had only just begun, but the path ahead was already clear. He wasn't here just to follow the path of heroes. He was here to forge it. The city didn't sleep, and neither did he. In his base mode, clad in black and blue, Izuku zipped down the alleys on his turbo bike. Steel hovered beside him, scanning for activity. Lots of criminal chatter tonight, Steel muttered. Izuku cracked his knuckles and revved the throttle. Then let's show them what Raijin can do. He activated his helmet, armor lighting up in a streak of electric blue. The tires blazed as the bike roared to life again. Let's go turbo! And like thunder breaking across the skyline, Raijin streaked into the night unstoppable, unseen, and utterly unrelenting. Because a hero doesn't rest. Not when the city still needs saving. Not when justice still needs lightning. Chapter end. Under the moonlit sky, the sound of crashing waves filled the quiet air as Izuku Midoriya stood at the edge of a seaside cliff. His helmet was partially retracted, revealing only his intense green eyes as he stared out at the ocean. It sure is peaceful, huh, Steel? He muttered. It sure is, bud, replied Steel, his AI companion, softly from the embedded speaker on his suit. Feeling the stillness in his bones, Izuku decided it was time for a patrol flight style. Within minutes, the sky was alive with the faint hum of his flight engine. Blue energy pulsed from the soles of his boots as he soared through the city skyline, dashing from rooftop to rooftop, stopping crimes in rapid succession. Purse thieves, armed robbers, gang activity, none of it escaped his watch. While cruising midair, Steel scanned the area for more disturbances. Izuku, meanwhile, glanced at the time on his HUD. 2:03 a.m. He sighed. Thinking about May again? Steel teased. And Uraraka, Izuku admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. Ah, Steel replied, suddenly a lot less talkative. Izuku groaned. Why am I struggling with it? Opposites see more than actual villains. Steel wisely kept his mouth shut. That was a trap he knew better than to walk into. Eventually, Izuku decided it was time to head home. His body was starting to demand the one thing he couldn't hack his way around: sleep. The next morning, if rest was supposed to bring peace, someone forgot to send that memo to the heroes currently chasing Izuku down the highway. Decked out in his base suit, Izuku tore through the city streets on his turbo bike, laughing under his breath. Well, this is shaping up to be another record-breaking day of vigilante work, he said with a grin. Might as well enjoy it. He revved the engine, generating a surge of turbo energy, and left the authorities eating his blue-lit dust. Days passed like this frenzied, non-stop vigilante work. Izuku didn't rest, didn't falter, and certainly didn't tell his mom. She thought he was still tinkering with May in the lab. But on this particular night, as he roared down an alley, Steel's voice broke the rhythm. Emergency signal detected, get OFF now. Izuku jumped, tucking into a roll as his turbo bike exploded behind him. No, he cried, watching pieces of his precious machine scatter into the air. Steel, floating by his side, added solemnly, You were a good friend, turbo bike. The smoke cleared, and that's when Izuku saw him. All Might. The symbol of peace stood tall, smiling like he'd just delivered the punchline to a joke only he found funny. All Might, Izuku growled. All Might's booming voice echoed across the ruined street. Haha, you've been doing some good work, young man. But vigilante acts are still illegal. I'll have to bring you in, please don't resist. But Izuku was already charging up. You think I'm gonna listen to you? He snapped. You're a joke. A walking symbol of broken promises. Hero who destroys dreams. You crushed mine. All Might's smile faltered. You're a hypocrite. You call yourself a hero, but all you do is stomp kids into the dirt and act like it's mercy. Steel hissed. Izuku, calm down. But Izuku didn't. Not this time. Go turbo strength. With a roar, he blasted toward All Might, landing a punch directly into his side, his weak spot. The mighty hero staggered, clutching his ribs. Before he could react, Izuku followed up with a punishing uppercut to the chin. Civilians nearby gasped, pulling out their phones. They'd caught everything on camera. "Go turbo speed!" Izuku shouted, vanishing in a flash of blue light. All Might dropped to one knee, coughing hard, his breath short. He glared in the direction Izuku had disappeared. "Someone who knows about my weak spot?" he whispered. "No. It can't be. That voice. That attitude. Could it be?" The thought shook him, but time was running out. He limped away, seeking refuge behind the nearest alley before his form gave out entirely. Later that night, a faint trail of blue light shimmered across the ocean as Izuku, still in turbo form, ran on the water toward a distant island. As his boots hit the sand, he powered down his suit. Steel hovered at his side, scanning the surroundings. "You all right, bud?" Steel asked. Izuku exhaled slowly, eyes scanning the horizon. "I still hate him, Steel. All of them. These so-called heroes, who think anyone without powers is weak, helpless, worthless." He clenched his fists, voice rising as he shouted into the sky. "My name is Izuku Midoriya. And I'm not weak or pathetic, you stupid fakes." Chapter end. It had only been a few days since Izuku Midoriya started at UA High's support course, and already, his reputation was cemented, or rather, labeled teacher's pet. Apparently, being smarter than the average hormonal teen was a crime punishable by side eyes and muffled insults. Izuku didn't really care. If anything, he found it ironic. What was the point of being in the support course if they weren't willing to understand both the basics and the complexity of invention? But logic was a rare resource, and most of his classmates were running low on it. Thankfully, Mei Hatsum wasn't one of them. She got it. She got him. Though, if he was being honest, sometimes she looked at him with an intensity that felt almost overwhelming. It wasn't uncomfortable, just tense. But she was brilliant, and her company was electric, even when she leaned a little too close during lunch, excitedly babbling about her latest babies. Steel, his ever-loyal AI companion, remained tucked away in his backpack, scanning through UA's internal systems and using the upgraded police scanner he had installed in his own circuitry. In case anything required immediate attention, they could jet to the scene. The two of them were always ready. Izuku was mid-bite when the good vibes screeched to a halt, interrupted by a voice he knew far too well. "What the hell are you doing here, Deku?" The words stung, but not out of pain. At this point, it was just a nuisance. Like a mosquito buzzing in his ear. He turned, already knowing who it was: Katsuki Bakugo. The explosive troublemaker who had made his life miserable ever since he discovered he had a quirk. Izuku's reply was calm and laced with sarcasm. "Just eating lunch. Or did your explosions finally fry your common sense?" Bakugo's eyes narrowed like he was ready to unleash his temper. But before he could take a step, a classmate with bright red spiky hair quickly stepped in, placing a hand on Bakugo's shoulder. "Hey man, no need to go all rage monster." "Sorry about him," the redhead said with a sharp-toothed grin. "He doesn't mean to ruin your lunch." Izuku blinked, surprised by the gesture. "No worries. Nobody got hurt, so it's fine," he said simply, brushing it off. But Bakugo wasn't having it. He shrugged off his classmate and lunged, hand outstretched toward Izuku's collar. That was his first mistake. Before anyone could blink, Izuku pivoted, grabbed Bakugo's arm, and flipped him clean over with a smooth judo throw. The explosion-happy blonde hit the ground with a thud, wincing in pain. And Izuku? He didn't even break a sweat. He stepped forward, eyes cool, voice steady. "You think this is middle school, Bakugo? One wrong move and you'll be expelled. And I'll make sure of it." Bakugo snarled, popping explosions in his palms as the lunchroom grew deathly silent. All eyes were on them, students frozen mid-bite, trays suspended in disbelief. But before anything could escalate, Present Mike burst onto the scene, loud and commanding as always, putting an end to the potential brawl. Bakugo was dragged off by his classmates, still fuming, his glare seething. Izuku just smirked in response, a sharp, confident edge that said, "Try me again, and see what happens." Let the mutt bark, Izuku thought. If he wants to act like a rabid dog, he better learn who really runs the pound. Mei chose that exact moment to invade his space again, this time taking his arm measurements without so much as a hello. Izuku didn't question it. He was used to her brand of chaos. Steel sent him an internal ping, relaying fresh scanner data. Izuku responded mentally, "We're going on patrol tonight." After lunch and after wrestling a bit of personal space away from Mei, Izuku made his way to the principal's office. He knocked once, and upon being given permission, entered. The room was spacious and eccentric, walls decorated with a bold plaque that read, "Don't judge my taste or you'll regret it." Pleasant. Terrifying. Intriguing. And then he saw him. His eyes widened. Wow. The small, animal-like figure looked up from his desk with a pleasant smile. "Nice to see you, Mr. Midoriya. Am I a dog, a mouse, or a bear? The answer doesn't matter. I'm the principal of you." Izuku blinked. "It's an honor, Principal Nezu." "Likewise. Would you care for some tea?" Izuku took a seat. "I'd very much like some." Over warm, calming tea, Izuku told his story. All of it. From being bullied for being quirkless to the teachers who turned a blind eye. Steel, ever the assistive partner, provided hard evidence through a discrete data stream. Nezu listened. He smiled gently, but behind that smile was a flicker of anger. "The rat god is mad," Izuku muttered quietly. "Well, RIP to the ones who treated you like trash," Steel quipped. Nezu assured him that action would be taken against the prejudice masquerading as education. But when it came to Bakugo, Izuku made a request. "Let me handle him." Nezu, intrigued, accepted. With time to spare before returning to class, Izuku challenged the principal to a game of chess. Nezu's eyes gleamed with genuine interest. They played in silence, save for the occasional clack of a piece against the board. Izuku smiled. Tomorrow's going to be a good day. What he didn't realize, though, was that something was coming. Something that would change him. Forever. Chapter end. It was still early when Izuku Midoriya, otherwise known as the vigilante Raijin, tore across the countryside in turbo speed mode. The wind lashed at his helmet and jacket, the world a blur of greens and grays. Earlier that morning, he'd requested a sick day from Principal Nezu in easy favor thanks to their recent meeting. His homeroom teacher had complied, albeit reluctantly. Naturally, this decision didn't go unnoticed by his classmates. The moment the news spread, several students shot him glares, already labeling him teacher's pet. All except Mei Hatsum, who cornered him with an intense look of curiosity in her wild pink eyes. "Why are you skipping class?" she asked, pushing her goggles up on her forehead. "It's a secret," Izuku replied, offering her an apologetic shrug. She pouted, then grinned like a whirlwind of energy. "Fine, but you owe me. I'm making you my lab assistant." That sentence alone sent a shudder down his spine. Now, as he raced along the hidden path to his underground base, that same nervous energy fueled his drive. "Steel," he called through his helmet, "open the hatch." With a soft mechanical hiss, a portion of the rocky hillside lifted like a high-tech garage door. Inside, glowing with cold blue light and humming with energy, was the hidden base Izuku and Steel used as their own. Once inside, he slid into his chair, his visor retracting with a hiss. All around him, high-end monitors lit up, dozens of camera feeds flashing images from all over the city. "Man," Izuku muttered, spinning around in his chair, "this tech is top tier. I can see half of Japan with this." Steel's voice, cheerful as ever, came through the system. "Told ya. This place is fully equipped for emergencies. Honestly, it would have been awesome if you met Max." Izuku paused, lowering his gaze. "Yeah. Sorry he's gone." "It's fine," Steel said softly. "He wouldn't want me moping around anyway. But hey, speaking of awesome, wanna try that mode?" Izuku raised a brow. "You mean that mode? You know it?" He groaned. "Man, it takes forever to activate it right. Last time I almost short-circuited my brain." Steel laughed. "Yeah, but it'll be hilarious to see you smack your face into the wall again." "Really, dude?" Laughter echoed through the base as Izuku chased Steel's drone form playfully for a few laps, Their brief antics a welcome break from their usual intensity. Eventually, Izuku returned to the surveillance system. As his eyes scanned the various feeds, something strange caught his attention. "Steel," he said slowly, "is that a student running from the USJ?" Steel snapped to attention. "Wait, what? I don't like this. Something's off. Let's investigate." "Oh heck yeah," Steel said, his voice filled with excitement. "Let's go full turbo cop." Izuku chuckled, leaping onto his customized vigilante bike. Raijin is on the move. With a roar, the bike tore from the underground hideout, speeding toward the facility known as the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. It was supposed to be a standard rescue training exercise. But everything went awry in an instant. Villains had appeared out of nowhere, dozens of them, some wielding dangerous quirks, others clearly unhinged. The students, brave as they tried to be, found themselves scattered and terrified. They did their best to protect each other, but when a monstrous creature with strength rivaling All Might's burst into the arena, hope began to fade. Then came the moment that changed everything. The sound of screeching tires echoed across the battlefield as a motorcycle crashed through a window above, raining shards of glass on the villains below. The impact left cracks in the floor, drawing every eye toward the newcomer. "What the hell?" one villain shouted before being knocked back with a force that sent him flying. Another went down seconds later, then another. And then silence. The figure stood tall, surrounded by unconscious bodies, the shattered glass sparkling around his boots like stardust. Clad in a custom black and blue suit with sparks dancing around him, the vigilante Raijin had arrived. Two injured students stood frozen nearby, and Raijin turned his helmet toward them. "If you value your lives," he said calmly, "take your teacher and get out. I'll handle this." The two didn't argue. They scrambled to Aizawa's side, dragging him away while Raijin faced the villains. One of them stepped forward, his body covered in dismembered hands. His eyes were pale, his aura unsettling. Well, Shigaraki Tamura sneered. "The infamous vigilante. You should leave now, before things get complicated." Raijin snorted. "Yeah, how about no?" In a blur of movement, Raijin dashed forward, aiming a punch at Shigaraki, but the villain ducked, swiping at his helmet with a decaying hand. Raijin twisted away just in time. "Nomu," Shigaraki growled, pointing. "Take him down." The massive, gray-skinned beast bellowed and charged. "Go turbo strength," Raijin said, his suit glowing brighter. Power surged through his limbs as his punches crackled with kinetic energy. If that overgrown chicken nugget was made to fight All Might, then guess what? I already beat All Might in training. SCK on that. Shigaraki's neck twitched violently. "What did you just call me?" "Limp D Jr., Raijin added. "Ref. Nomu, take this species down." With a beastly roar, Nomu lunged. But Raijin met him head-on with a glowing fist, slamming him into the far wall so hard it cracked the supports. "Hope that's not your final form," Raijin taunted, sparks flickering around his arms. Steel's voice chimed in through his earpiece. "Pro heroes are en route. Let's hold the line, boss." Raijin cracked his knuckles, his eyes gleaming beneath the helmet. "Time to dance." And with that, the battle between the storm-wielding vigilante and the bioengineered monster began. Elsewhere, deep beneath the earth, red energy pulsed inside a hidden chamber. At a nearby console, a figure watched Raijin's exploits on multiple monitors. "He's getting stronger," the figure muttered. "But soon, the final pieces will be in place." They glanced at a photo of Max Steel. "I'll finish what you started, Great-Grandfather Dread. Chaos will rise again." Across the globe, from hidden temples to underground vaults, dormant power sources began to glow. Ancient, long-forgotten entities stirred. Their goal? To destroy the one called Raijin. But for now, Raijin fought with every spark in his heart, unaware that his greatest trials had only just begun. Chapter end. From deep within the HUD of the advanced turbo suit, Steel processed every movement in real time. Sparks danced in the corners of his vision, warning signs flaring up like angry hornets. Izuku Midoriya, his partner, his pilot, His friend was hammering blow after blow into the monstrous Nomu with raw, turbo-augmented strength. The air cracked with the force behind each punch. The bioengineered beast screamed, its body lurching with each strike, a flash of shock and pain crossing its face. Steel, internally, damn it, he's pushing the strength mode too far. If he keeps this up, his muscles are going to rupture. This isn't sustainable, not at his current turbo tolerance level. But Izuku didn't slow down. He moved like a storm, fueled by grit and determination. Steel, over the comms, bro, we need a call. Final decision, how do we end this thing? Izuku growled, barely dodging a swipe from the Nomu. What other turbo mode can I use, before I really cut loose? Steel hesitated. There's one that'll hit this thing like a freight train from hell. But it's risky. Izuku, your turbo energy is different from Max and Jim's. I told you it grows with you, but right now, there's a significant risk of overload. Your core is already heating up. Izuku's eyes narrowed behind the helmet visor. Then let's do it. But you better warn me if I start overheating, bud. All right, Steel replied, his voice sharp. Then gear up, partner. It's go time. Izuku's aura flared as strength mode surged again, his limbs glowing blue with turbo energy. The suit groaned under the pressure. Greawaha. He launched a single, devastating punch. The Nomu's body went airborne and slammed into the stadium wall with such force that spiderweb cracks radiated across the concrete. Shigaraki, watching from a distance, froze. Kurogiri stood still, his smoky form twitching. Both were in disbelief. The Nomu, their trump card, had just been overpowered. "And no way," Shigaraki muttered. His horror twisted into laughter as he noticed something. Izuku staggered just for a second. Fatigue was creeping in. Shigaraki grinned manically. I see now. You can't hold that form for long, can you? Idiot. You're weak. Kill him, The beast roared, charging forward again. Izuku didn't move at first. Then, at the last possible moment, he deactivated strength mode and bolted, leaving nothing but an afterimage and a rush of wind. Shigaraki screamed after him. You think running will save you? You lost, Raijin. You and All Might will fall together. But Izuku stopped cold, turning his head over his shoulder. And who said I was running? The Nomu got within range. And that's when Izuku made his move. Go turbo cannon. A blinding flash of blue light burst from his suit. The Nomu howled, momentarily blinded. And then, Izuku struck it square in the face, sending it skidding backward. Steel's voice buzzed inside the helmet. Oh yeah, you're cleared to give this thing a serious beating. Izuku grinned under the visor. Don't gotta tell me twice. The Nomu stepped back instinctively. Even Shigaraki and Kurogiri were shocked it was afraid. Oh no you don't, Izuku said coldly, blue energy flooding his body. You're not getting away, you little monster. The turbo suit roared to life. He surged forward, a blue comet of fury, slamming into the Nomu with a flurry of brutal, disorienting strikes. Every attack echoed like thunder. Go turbo strength. With that, he charged all remaining energy into his right fist, turbo energy erupting around it like lightning, and uppercut the Nomu so hard it launched into the sky. Boom. Silence followed. The Nomu was done. Students hiding in the wreckage watched in awe, speechless. None of them expected that kind of power from the vigilante known only as Raijin. Izuku collapsed to a knee, panting hard, suit crackling and steaming. Steel, systems are critical. You've got about a 10% chance of escape now. Crud, Izuku mumbled. All right, we're bugging out. Let's go. He turned to move only for Shigaraki to lunge at him in blind fury, decay spreading across his hand. Like hell I'm letting you escape after what you did to N'Gi. Bang. A clean shot rang out. Shigaraki's hand exploded, and then his knees. Kurogiri immediately warped to his side, cloaking him in mist, shielding him from further shots. You'll regret this. Shigaraki screamed as they vanished. I'll kill you, Raijin. I'll turn you to dust. You hear me? Izuku blinked, then tilted his head with a smirk. Man-child temper tantrum. Kinda reminds me of that one JRK who takes everything too seriously. He turned again only to see the pro heroes finally closing in, All Might leading the charge. He sighed. Steel. You're up. Steel, cracking his knuckles figuratively. Yes. Finally. Time to use the secret weapon I've been saving for years. All Might raised a hand. There's nowhere to run, Vigilante. Turn yourself in. Izuku, now under Steel's direct control, flipped him off. Not a chance. The suit activated full stealth mode with a sonic boom. All Might blinked, stunned, as the Vigilante bolted from the USJ like a blue ghost. The heroes were too late. The villain army was arrested. The students were safe. Aizawa and 13 were stabilized. But the man in the blue suit, the lightning-fast ghost, was gone. Back at the underground hideout, Izuku lay slumped in a chair, suit peeled back, chest rising and falling in heavy breaths. I'm in so much pain right now, he muttered. I need some serious sleep. He was out before he finished the sentence. Steel, now fully in control, floated toward the central console. Satellite feeds, news reports, alerts. He scanned everything, every angle, every threat. But even as the world celebrated the rescue at USJ, Steel's eyes narrowed. I just hope you don't go through what Max did, Izuku, he whispered. I already lost too much. I can't lose you too. The screens flickered. And somewhere, deep beneath the earth, something stirred. The city lights flickered, distorted in the haze of smoke and chaos. For the 19th time in 4 hours, a blur of electric blue and kinetic energy raced across the metropolitan streets, effortlessly overtaking a fleeing car. Sirens wailed in the distance, but the police had given up trying to match his pace. Why bother, when Izuku Midoriya and Raijin, the vigilante turbocharged phenomenon, was practically a ghost on the wind? That makes 19, Izuku muttered inside the helmet, his voice calm despite the heat on his tail. Steel, you're starting to make this look too easy. Wanna race a jet next time? Maybe punch a missile while we're at it? Tempting, Izuku replied, skidding to a halt behind a nearby building. Turbo mode, speed disengaged, his boots steaming against the pavement. Back at his hidden underground station, an intricate blend of salvage tech, old UA blueprints, and a stolen pro-hero server or two. Izuku removed his helmet and flopped into the chair before his rig of monitors. His brows furrowed. Still a few fires left in the city, he muttered, hands gliding over the controls. Evacuations are slow tonight. Steel unlatched from the chest port, hovering off and clanking over to another terminal. But rather than checking enemy signatures or vital signs. Steel, for a guy with god-tier battle instincts, you have zero digital dirt. No browser history, no bookmarks, not even one suspiciously labeled folder. You're either a saint or hiding it really well. Izuku blinked. Wait, Steel. Are you going through my phone? Steel, just checking for educational material. You know, I don't even have time to sleep, let alone NO. Just stop. Steel, maybe saving yourself for someone special, huh? Max didn't even wait that long. You need a virus. Steel, I am a virus. Technically. A loud alarm cut through the banter, and Izuku bolted upright. On the main monitor, the city's surveillance system fed live visuals of mass panic. Civilians screamed, buildings burned, and pro-heroes struggled to coordinate escape routes. But the source? Is that a fire monster? Izuku narrowed his eyes. Or some kind of transformed Quirk user? Steel, worse. Much worse. We need to go. That's not vague or ominous at all. That thing, it's one of the prime elementals Max and I fought ages ago. We thought they were gone. If it's here, others might follow. Stronger. Smarter. Izuku shoved his helmet back on, his suit glowing with kinetic pulses. The garage hatch opened. Let's light it up. Turbo bike is hot and humming. Let's roll. Downtown looked like a scene out of a disaster movie. Flames devoured the skyline. Civilians were being pulled from rubble. Pro-heroes were shouting over radio comms, coordinating rescue operations. And in the center of it all, towering over the chaos, stood the flame elemental. A creature of pure combustion and wrath, it roared at the fleeing civilians. You insolent worms think you can oppose me? Behold a flaming fist. It reeled back, hurling a molten punch that struck a pro-hero square in the chest. The hero flew backward, crashing through a burning building. Where is the one who can give me a challenge? Where is Max Steel? A blur of blue smashed into the side of the beast's head. The punch didn't move the elemental, but it certainly got its attention. That punch. I know it, the beast snarled, its molten jaw twisting into a cruel grin. But you're not Max. You're an imposter. Tabo stepped forward, his armor glowing with raw turbo energy. The air around him rippled with force. Name's Raijin. And if you want Steel, you're gonna have to take him. Classic hero line. I'm so proud. The elemental roared, charging like a meteor. Raijin braced. Go turbo strength. Energy exploded around him. His armor bulked with kinetic muscle, glowing veins of power surging across his arms. They collided in a thunderous shockwave that sent tremors through the street. From the sidelines, civilians watched and recorded. Phones trembled. Pro-heroes paused in disbelief. Fire versus strength. Round 1. The two exchanged blows faster than the eye could follow. The ground shattered. Shockwaves leveled cars. Flame liked against kinetic force. Every punch Raijin threw disrupted the fire's shape. Every hit the elemental landed scorched and blistered the air. But Izuku refused to give an inch. You're strong, he panted, sliding across the pavement after a fiery kick. But strength isn't everything. Izuku, he's heating up his cores, destabilizing. You've got a window to end this, now. Tabo's eyes narrowed. He darted forward. Go turbo cannon. His fist launched a concentrated blast of blue kinetic energy. It struck the elemental center mass. The creature screamed, stumbling. Now turbo strength maxed out. With a yell, Izuku leapt into the air, turbo energy spiraling around him. He came down like a comet, fist first. The street cratered. The elemental's flames sputtered, then went out. Silence. Smoke curled up in the aftermath as Tabo stood, shoulders heaving. The city held its breath. And then the crowd erupted. Applause. Cheers. Shocked gasps. Cameras zoomed in. Who is that guy? Is he a hero? A vigilante? Did anyone get that on video? Tabo took a shaky breath. Steel. Report. Core is stable. Suit integrity at 62%. You're one cracked helmet away from being toast, but you did it. But because I'm definitely crashing after this. Izuku. That was one of the weaker ones. There are more. Stronger. Smarter. Angrier. Then let them come, Izuku whispered, scanning the skyline as the last of the smoke cleared. I'm not Max. I'm not a hero. I'm Raijin. And I protect this city whether it likes me or not. You dramatic BSTRD. I love it. The civilians who had managed to escape, along with the injured heroes, could only watch in awe and horror. Before them stood a vigilante clad in a sleek, battle-worn suit facing off against a towering creature made entirely of flame. Not even the pro-hero Endeavor could bring the beast down. He had been taken out of commission earlier, now en route to a hospital with severe injuries. In the middle of this inferno, Izuku Midoriya turbo mode, strength activated, darted across the battlefield, narrowly dodging pillars of fire erupting from the ground. The flame creature roared, not in rage, but exhilaration. Yes. After all these years, this familiarity, this power, this strength, you are worthy to fall by my hand. Izuku grunted as he caught the creature's blazing fist mid-swing, redirecting it before driving his own powered-up punch into its chest. The elemental beast skidded backward, flames flickering violently. DMN. What kind of quirk is that? It's not a quirk, Izuku. It's something else. Something like me. That snapped Izuku's attention hard. But he had no time to react, as a massive fireball soared toward him. Shifting quickly, he activated turbo flight mode and shot into the sky, climbing high above the battlefield. Wait, are you saying that thing's an Ultralink too? Like you? Before Steel could answer, A violent gust of wind slammed into Izuku Midoriya, nearly knocking him off course. He prepared to curse out All Might, but it wasn't him. It wasn't even human. Another being hovered above the battlefield, cloaked in swirling currents of air. Why are you wasting times? End the imposter already. The fire creature snarled and glared at the wind elemental. Don't tell me what to do. You're not the leader. The wind being sneered back before turning its focus to Izuku, who was now rapidly flying away. But the air began to bend unnaturally around him, dragging him backward. Oh crap. Steal more juice. Now. Careful, Izuku. You weren't born with turbo energy, don't overdo it. I know. But we're punching it anyway. His thrusters roared, fueled by a sudden surge of energy. The sky cracked with a sonic boom as he blasted forward, breaking free from the wind's grip. The two elementals launched after him like missiles, flames and gales in hot pursuit. Izuku could feel the sweat dripping beneath his helmet, his muscles beginning to tremble under the pressure. Too much power. Can't maintain this much longer. We need to land. He dropped back to Earth, cutting off turbo flight mode just in time. His boots hit the ground hard, and his suit flickered as even base mode began to shut down. He panted, wiping his brow. Note to self, overclocking the suit equals instant regret. Suddenly, he heard them getting closer. He ducked behind a boulder as the two creatures skidded to a halt nearby, already in mid-argument. Demon IT. I had him. Why did you interfere? You thought you were winning? All I saw was you getting thrown around like a chew toy. And now, thanks to your failure, we don't even know where the Ultralink host went. Flames surged. Wind howled. A brief scuffle broke out, with each elemental hurling their powers at the other. From behind cover, Izuku chuckled. These guys fight like toddlers. But the moment of levity vanished when the ground beneath him began to shift. He was being pulled downward as into the earth. Izuku! Power up! Now, reacting quickly, Izuku reignited his base form and punched downward, breaking free from the grip of the earth. He leapt just in time to avoid a giant rocky hand reaching for him. Izuku, what now? Before he could process, a fireball struck him, followed by a powerful wind blast that sent him crashing into a boulder, spiderweb cracks forming behind him. He tried to rise, but his limbs felt restrained. Emerging from the rocky ground was a third creature, this one composed of living stone. Earth Elementa loomed over him, then turned to the other two. Earth Elementa, he doesn't want to initiate the plan yet. Why are you two rushing the timeline? You are under strict orders, no engagement. Izuku, barely upright, clenched his fists. Izuku, orders? Who's giving these creatures orders? The three continued to argue. Then, abruptly, they stopped and turned away. A massive crater opened behind them. Izuku, oh no, you don't turbo us. A massive earth spike launched at him. Izuku barely blocked it, but it was enough. The elementals vanished into the crater, leaving only scorched rock and silence behind. He stared, breath heaving. Izuku, what was that? Steel. I'm sorry, Izuku. I really thought they were gone. I didn't know. Izuku, don't blame yourself, Steel. This just means there are unfinished battles left to fight. And I need to get stronger. Think you're up for it, bud? Steel, if it means taking down those creatures? I'm all in. The two made their way back to their hideout, but Steel couldn't shake the growing sense of dread. Steel, thinking please? Please don't let it be him again. In a dimly lit chamber, the only source of light fell on a lone figure in deep meditation. He exhaled slowly, then opened his eyes. Eyes that had seen death and laughed in its face. He stood, stretching. Metal plates around his arms sparked faintly as he clenched his fists. So, the game begins again. A smirk curled across his lips. To think, finding you gave me purpose again. I wonder, Steel, will you remember me? His eyes glowed a fierce red. I hope I see you soon, old friend. Chapter end. The rhythmic thuds of fist-meeting mat echoed through the dimly lit training chamber, metallic walls pulsing with a soft blue glow that illuminated sweat glistening across Izuku Midoriya's bare torso. Deep underwater, where the ocean swallowed light and sound, the world above felt distant, irrelevant. Down here, it was just him, his breath, his grit, and steel. 49.50. Izuku grunted, finishing another set of push-ups before springing back up, rope in hand. He gripped the thick coil like a lifeline, swinging it with explosive force. The slamming sound of the battle rope against the reinforced floor reverberated through the chamber. Steel floated nearby, arms crossed, visor flickering between camera feeds. "You know, Midoriya," he called without turning, "at this rate, you're going to sweat your muscle fibers into SBMs before any villain gets the chance." Izuku smirked between deep, measured breaths, drops of sweat tracing his jawline. "Then I better make sure they're too scared to even try," he said, leaping into a new set of pull-ups from a metal bar suspended over the aquatic blue training floor. He moved with a fluidity that belied the intensity of his regimen pull-ups, transitioning into core-crunching sit-ups, then back to cardio. His muscles coiled and stretched like a spring, honed not just for strength, but for flexibility and agility. Every movement was deliberate, every breath earned. Steel finally spun around from his multi-screen station with a sharp beep. "And speaking of villains, we've got a situation brewing topside. Some tech-enhanced individuals just broke into a government cargo transport headed for Hosu. Judging by the heat signatures, they're not amateurs." Izuku grabbed a towel, rubbing the back of his neck, still catching his breath. "Figures. Can't even finish one training session without the universe throwing something at us." Steel hovered closer, concern in his voice. "Your turbo energy reserves are still low from the last fight with the Elementers. We should wait." Izuku cut him off with a determined glance. "We don't have time to wait, Steel. Suit me up, base mode." Steel paused for a fraction of a second, then gave a solemn nod. "All right, just don't burn yourself out." With a smooth motion, he darted toward Izuku's chest. Activating base suit. Sinking core now. A gleaming flash enveloped Izuku, metal lines crawling over his body like living threads. The sleek, silver-blue armor formed in seconds, hugging his frame perfectly. Even in base mode, he radiated a quiet powerless explosive but every bit as lethal when used right. "Power level stable," Steel confirmed. "Let's ride." The pair jogged through a narrow corridor lit with pulses of energy running along the walls like veins. The underwater base, a high-tech labyrinth of reinforced steel and glowing panels, hummed with life. Doors slid open with sharp hisses as they reached the bike chamber. There was the turbo bike. Sleek, black with streaks of neon blue, the vehicle looked like a shark built for war. Its turbines revved to life as Izuku mounted it, visor snapping over his eyes with a swift clink. Steel slipped into the core of the bike with a buzz. Route uploaded. Surface exit tunnel pressurized. You're good to go. The base's large vault-like doors creaked open, revealing a clear water tunnel stretching upward like a coiling serpent to the surface. Izuku gripped the handles, lips curling into a grin. Time to hit the current. He twisted the throttle. The bike shot forward like a torpedo, leaving a silver-blue trail in its wake. Pressure surged as they zipped through the ascent tunnel. Sea glass and sunbeams filtered down from the ocean surface, gradually replacing the blue-black void. With a sudden blast, the bike erupted from the sea like a missile, breaching the waves and landing clean on a hidden rocky shoreline where their cloaked exit led them to a nearby road. Steel's voice buzzed in Izuku's ear. Looks like our targets are heading into the city. They're armed with tech that's not on any registry. Prototype class. Which means it's either stolen, or someone's testing them, Izuku muttered, weaving the bike through the winding roads. And either way, we can't let them get away. You sure you're up for this? Steel asked, already knowing the answer. Izuku's knuckles tightened around the grips. I'm not backing down. We finish what we started. The sun pierced through stormy clouds ahead as the city skyline came into view, silhouetted like jagged teeth on the horizon. The wind lashed against his suit, the engine thrummed like a heartbeat, and in that moment, despite the low energy, despite the strain, Izuku Midoriya felt alive. Because the mission hadn't ended with the last battle. It was just beginning. The city had a way of hiding things. In its corners, behind bright neon signs and the rhythmic hum of life, there was always something festering in the dark: criminals, secrets, danger. Izuku Midoriya understood the stakes better than anyone. The turbo bike coasted into an abandoned warehouse district just as the sun began its descent, painting the clouds in hues of gold and red like smoldering embers. Izuku parked the bike behind a rusted storage container, activating the camouflage shielding with a light tap to his wrist. The sleek vehicle shimmered briefly before blending into its surroundings. Steel's voice whispered into his comm, "I'm triangulating the signal from the stolen tech. We're picking up unstable energy surges coming from the southern storage block. Whatever they're doing, it's about to reach critical mass." Izuku nodded, his demeanor all business. His fingers moved swiftly over the suit's wrist panel. Engage stealth mode. The hum of the base suit lowered to a soft purr. The armor's colors darkened, shifting from metallic blue to a matte, charcoal black. Lights dimmed, edges streamlined. He vanished into the growing shadows like smoke curling through the air. Stealth mode, active. His footsteps were silent. His breathing slow. His heart rate steady. The world's noise dulled to the rhythm of surveillance, every echo, every flicker of light, every distant conversation feeding his awareness. Izuku moved like a shadow across the concrete yard, vaulting silently onto a rooftop. He crouched low, activating the scanning visor. A red overlay swept across his vision, identifying heat signatures inside the target building: 3 individuals, 2 pacing, 1 working with something massive. Steel buzzed. "I'm picking up encrypted comms chatter. They're trying to sell pieces of the stolen gear to an arms syndicate. But that big thing in the center? It's not for sale. It's charging." Izuku narrowed his eyes. "What is it?" Steel hesitated, then responded, "I don't know. And I hate that I don't know." Sliding into position above a shattered skylight, Izuku peered down. One of the criminals was hunched over a strange crate glowing with unstable purple energy runes and circuitry fused like tech welded to alien bones. Another was pacing with a heavy blaster on his back. The third was in a makeshift exosuit, muscles twitching with artificial support and a high-frequency emitter strapped to his spine. "Steel," Izuku whispered, "zoom and enhance that core module." A quiet beep answered. A holographic image popped into Izuku's HUD, sharpening the energy readings. Steel cursed under his breath. "That's not prototype tech. That's element tech, fragmented, black market versions of the energy signatures used by the elementers. Someone's tampering with that power." Izuku's hands clenched. If element tech was in circulation, that meant the elementers weren't just returning, they were inspiring something worse. Copycats with no idea what they were unleashing. "We can't let that device go online," Izuku muttered. "Agreed," Steel said grimly. "But we can't go loud. That thing's linked to their life signs. If you trip it, it could lead to a disaster." Izuku scanned the room again. "Then I'll have to ghost in and disable it. Manual override. Tricky, but doable if you get to the central node under the control panel. You'll need about 30 seconds of uninterrupted access." 30 seconds is a lifetime in combat," Izuku muttered, then smiled. "So I'll make them too scared to blink." He dropped silently through the skylight, landing in a crouch behind an overturned crate. One of the goons looked up for a moment but shrugged and returned to his patrol. Izuku moved like water flowing between shadows, slipping from cover to cover. When one of the thugs passed too close, he reached out and pulled him into the darkness with a swift sleeper hold, gently laying the unconscious body to rest behind a power box. "2 left." Steel pinged in. "You're 20 meters from the node. Remaining enemies have line of sight to the core." Izuku scanned the field, his mind racing through a dozen scenarios. A distraction wouldn't work, too risky. A direct takedown? Possible if he could get the timing right. He waited. Let his pulse slow to a crawl. The 2 remaining enemies circled opposite ends of the machinery. One paused to adjust his weapon strap, and that was all Izuku needed. Engaging. Phantom Strike Protocol. He blurred forward in absolute silence, snapping a shock cable onto the back of the exosuit's neck. Electricity surged, and the thug dropped like a marionette with cut strings. The final enemy turned, eyes wide only for Izuku to leap from the shadows, silencing him with a swift elbow to the temple. Seconds later, Izuku was crouched beneath the glowing crate, pulling open a panel with delicate fingers. The energy pulsed around him, like a heart about to explode. "Steel," he whispered. "Talk me through it." "I'm bypassing the primary flow regulator. You'll need to reroute the surge to the suit's internal core." "Wait for it." Beads of sweat rolled down Izuku's temple. The humming rose to a scream. Lights flickered. The core began to glow brighter. "Now!" Steel barked. Izuku slammed his hand onto the control plate. A brilliant light enveloped him, then surged into the suit. He grunted, dropping to one knee as the overload dispersed into the armor, harmless. The room fell silent. Steel exhaled. Containment successful. Core neutralized. Izuku stood slowly, shaking the heat from his fingers. Target neutralized. "I'm heading back." As he walked through the now silent warehouse, the weight of what had just happened pressed down hard. Element tech, rogue criminals. Unknown players pulling the strings. And worse, whispers of something familiar on the horizon. Steel spoke softly. "They were just the beginning, weren't they?" Izuku's jaw tightened. "Yeah. And next time, we won't get 30 seconds. The sun filtered through the industrial-style windows of UA's Department of Support, casting golden rays on a chaos that could only be described as controlled innovation gone rogue. Tools whirred, sparks danced, and steam hissed from half-built gadgets strewn across the workshop floor like a junkyard on caffeine. And right in the middle of it all was Izuku Midoriya wearing protective goggles, sweat on his brow, and both arms elbow-deep in a volatile stabilization core that very much wanted to explode. "Little to the left." "No, my left, not your left." "Ugh, the other left." Mei Hatsum's voice rang out with giddy urgency, her pink goggles pushed up on her forehead, grease smudged across her cheek, and a wrench in one hand that looked more like a medieval weapon than a tool. Izuku adjusted the magnetic clamp under the sparking module, gritting his teeth. "It's your invention, Hatsum. I'm just trying to keep it from becoming an orbital fireworks display." "I call that field testing," she replied cheerfully, diving under the table to rewire something else. "Besides, what's the point of building support gear if you're not pushing it to the brink of catastrophic failure?" Steel's voice whispered directly into Izuku's subconscious, the mental link sparking to life. "Steel, she's either brilliant or dangerously unhinged. Possibly both. Definitely both. Izuku, she's like the human equivalent of a plasma grenade with a patent number." Their silent communication was invisible to the world, hidden behind the veil of their minds. No one knew about Steel, not even Mei. Not yet. Not here. Izuku steadied his hands over the exposed core, adjusting the internal gyroscope. A high-pitched hum began to stabilize into a low whir. "There?" he exhaled. "Magnetic sync is holding. You've got about 5 seconds to seal the sealing initiated." Mei shouted triumphantly, slamming a lever down with zero hesitation and 110% enthusiasm. Click. Then, silence. No explosion. No fire. No emergency evacuation. Izuku blinked. "Thought it actually worked." "Of course it worked." Mei grinned. "You were stabilizing it. I just brought the thunder." Izuku stood up, cracking his neck. "What is this thing anyway?" "Oh, just a compact Eurobalance core with adaptable resonance fields," Mei said, waving a hand like it was common knowledge. "For shock-resistant exosuits. I figured someone out there might want to keep their ribs intact after getting punched." That name made Izuku freeze for a split second. "You're thinking practically," he said, nodding. "It's smart. A lot of heroes rely too much on quirks. If your gear fails, what's left?" She stopped, looking at him seriously for the first time that day. "You're not like most people in this course." "I know," he said quietly, offering a faint smile. "But I'm learning." A beat passed. Then she grinned again and said, "Wanna help me build something really risky now?" "Define risky." "Potential to create a miniature black hole if calibrated wrong." "Sure." As the two buried themselves once again in blueprints and gadgets, Steel scanned the room through Izuku's eyes. I've been monitoring local frequencies. Ever since the USJ attack, the school's internal security has been tighter than a vault. But something's off. Someone's rerouting surveillance from inside this building. Possibly support staff. You think someone in the support department is working with the villains? Or they're just trying to look like someone working with the villains? It's messy. The signal's buried deep. I'll dig, but be careful. Izuku nodded subtly, pretending to check a schematic while his eyes scanned the distant corner of the room where a terminal glowed faintly. A student sat at it, back turned. Nothing suspicious yet. If someone's hiding in plain sight, we'll find them. Mei's voice cut through his thoughts. Hey, you're drifting. We've got an oscillating energy rod that needs calibrating. He turned back to her, smiling despite the weight in his mind. Let's not create any black holes today. The day passed in a blur of invention, sweat, and creative combustion. As the sun began to dip below the skyline, Izuku wiped the grease from his hands and looked out the window, the quiet unease in his chest still lingering. The USJ attack was only the beginning. And now someone was playing a deeper game, hiding behind blueprints and soldering irons. And Izuku Midoriya, turbocharged shadow of a vigilante, was determined to uncover it. UA High School had returned to its uneasy rhythm after the USJ incident. Security was tighter. Patrol drones buzzed quietly through the air. Teachers kept their eyes sharp, and the students the students either buried themselves in their studies or buried their unease behind heroics. Inside the support course workshop, Izuku Midoriya adjusted a precision bolt on a new stabilizer clamp when a soft ping echoed from the corner of the room. Steele's voice tickled the edge of his thoughts, subtle and serious. Got something. Security flagged it as a low-level infraction, but I'm not so sure. Izuku subtly wiped his hands and stood up, moving toward the terminal that Steele had rerouted to feed directly into his visor display. What are we looking at? One of the business course students, Hikaru Asanobe, supposed to be monitoring logistics. Instead, he's been slipping coded messages through inventory logs. Encryptions that don't match any UA system. Sloppy but intentional. Could just be someone pulling a prank. Maybe. Or it's someone testing the waters. Izuku flagged the anomaly and walked calmly to his homeroom teacher, Power Loader, who was busy tinkering with a set of carbon-absorbing gloves. Excuse me, Power Loader-sensei, Izuku said respectfully. There's a small digital irregularity in the business department's inventory reports. It could be a miscommunication, but I think someone should double-check. Power Loader raised a brow, clearly surprised but not dismissive. You're not the type to waste time with small issues, Midoriya. Thanks. I'll run it by security. Izuku nodded, but his mind was already elsewhere. Steele had just relayed another alert, this time not inside UA, but outside, in the city. Civilian scanners picked up a stolen armored transport. 5 occupants. Police are already late to the scene. Guess it's time for a tune-up run. The entrance chamber of Izuku's underwater base opened with a low hiss. Machinery stirred, whirring to life like a sleeping titan awakening. Izuku stood before his suit locker, his turbo suit already forming over his body, piece by glowing piece. Steel, docked snugly into his chest slot, flashed with eager light. Energy reserves are steady. Let's keep this fast and clean. No overclocking unless necessary. Copy that, Izuku muttered, slipping on his helmet as it sealed with a click. He hopped onto his turbo bike, the engine pulsing with raw, concentrated energy. The tunnel ahead was a glowing vortex, leading from the submerged base straight to an exit port camouflaged beneath the Tokyo Bay shoreline. With a powerful roar, the bike launched forward, leaving behind only streaks of light and a faint sonic boom. The stolen armored transport thundered through the crowded streets like a runaway tank. Cars swerved, pedestrians scattered, and pro-heroes struggled to keep up. Move. Get out of the way, one of the robbers barked, gripping the wheel with white knuckles. Suddenly, something blurred past the side mirror. A blink later, their back tires sparked and lost traction as a blast of air hit them hard. What the hell was that? Trouble, another growled, reaching for his quirk activator. Trouble indeed. From above, Izuku descended, his silhouette backlit by the setting sun, blue thrusters blazing. His suit gleamed with rippling lines of turbo energy. His helmet visor scanned the vehicle's internal schematics in real time. 6 occupants. 1 driver, 2 with combat-type quirks, 3 with gear. We'll disable the engine first, then go for crowd control. Izuku smirked under the mask. Let's light this candle. Go turbo speed. In a streak of blue light, he vanished from view, reappearing beside the armored vehicle, palm outstretched. He fired a micro-EMP round directly into the transport's wheel hub. The front wheels locked. The transport fishtailed violently, skidding toward a sidewalk, and that's when Izuku jumped onto the roof. The robbers barely had time to react. He ripped open the top hatch, yanked the nearest thug through the opening, and hurled him across the road straight into a safety net he had launched moments prior. 2 more tried to escape out the back, only to be pinned by a pair of turbo grapplers. The last one activated a fire-based quirk, only to be doused by a sudden blast of high-pressure coolant. Within moments, it was all over. Civilians watched from a distance, recording in awe as the vigilante hero Raijin stood triumphantly atop the now-disabled transport, resembling a character straight out of a comic book. Media is watching us. Pro-heroes are on their way. Time to disappear, Steel communicated. Izuku leapt down, activated turbo stealth, and vanished into the shimmering lights of the city. Back at you, later that evening. Inside the support workshop, Power Loader examined the alert Izuku had flagged earlier. His eyes narrowed as he decrypted the last few strings of code. A pattern emerged. A location. A name that shouldn't have resurfaced. So this wasn't just a prank. Chapter end.